Hello, and welcome to this episode of Next Sell Over. I'm your host, Jenna Moser, fractional COO and strategic growth partner. And this is the podcast where we get out of the weeds and talk about what it actually takes to grow a lean, high profit business. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Amanda, the founder of Bookkeeper 365, where she provides faith driven, year round bookkeeping, tax planning, CFO services, everything with integrity, precision, and heart. Her values and mission for her business really stood out to me. So I couldn't wait to talk to her and learn more. So Amanda, thank you so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to this.
Well, thank you, Jenna, for having me. I greatly
Yeah, no
appreciate it.
problem. So let's just start with the basics. Tell me a little about your business, and what kind of clients you serve. Who are your ideal clients, I guess?
Well, I started Bookkeeper 365 in September of 2024. It kind of stemmed from for years I had been doing bookkeeping for other, like CPA firms or other bookkeeping firms. And I just wanted to, I saw what they were charging some of the people and could see that they really some of them were bootstrapping. They really couldn't afford their services, but they needed their level of services. So that's kind of what started me down my path. And, I really enjoy it. I work with a variety of them. I just actually signed up a nonprofit one yesterday. And when I told her that, I felt led that I wasn't going to charge her, and she's like, "You're not going to charge me?" I'm like, "No, I'm really not," because it was more of, I need my QuickBooks set up properly. I need to be able to track things properly. Donations, I have somebody on staff. And I was like, "Yeah, we can set this up. No problem." And she's like, "Okay." I mean, those are that's my passion, and I really wanna help small businesses grow, and it kinda starts from when I met my husband and his brother. They had a electrician company, they were electricians, and then eventually they stemmed out into doing a little construction, like building houses from, ground up. But they had really no way of tracking things and didn't know whether they were profitable. They were kinda winging it, and, I just kinda set, some basic principles into place for them, set up their books eventually on QuickBooks. At that time, it was desktop, so I'm dating myself a little here. But I've always had that passion for those small businesses that just wanna get started. Really, they're the ones who need the help the most because they need to know how to set up their books properly, know how to really read the data, understand what the data is telling them. They think it's just so simple. You just open up QuickBooks and say, "Hey, I'm a construction, give me my chart of accounts and I'm good to go." But, they really don't have no idea what the cost is going into these things. Like a lot of people don't have the direct labor, their technician wages will be down, below cost of goods. I'm like, that needs to move up because that's actually driven by your cost of goods sold. You need to know whether that's profitable. And then some of them I'm like, "Hey, we need to keep track even better. Let's go to the job level. You got a house plan A. Let's see if house plan A is actually making you money." And I mean, that's my passion. I feel very passionate for my clients, and I want to be seen as a bookkeeper who goes above and beyond. I find their pain points and I try to fix their pain points. And one pain point that really upset me greatly was the concept that 9 out of 10 small employers don't have health insurance, not just for themselves or for their employees. And it's because they can't afford it. But then if they go out and they try to get traditional health insurance, they're looking at on the low end for really cruddy insurance for a family, they're looking at least $1,000 more depending on what state they're in. And I did a quote earlier for a lady today, and she's 59 years old. And, and it's based on age. And I can get her a plan with like a $10,000 deductible around less than 250 a month. So it's just like, it's crazy, but, people are like, "I wanna do traditional," and I understand it. It's scary when you say healthcare sharing, but then there's other ways that I've saved clients money, just kinda dig in. Maybe maybe, what their electric plan is or anything, just try to find a pain point and fix it. I've actually helped them make deals with suppliers, like suppliers that were like net 10, having them bump it out a little. I've had one client that we put on factoring invoices, just so money could come in, even though they took a percentage of her sales, but it's just things to actually help them with their cash flow. It's kind
Yeah,
of
because
the way I've been going with my clients. I just want to help them.
yeah, no, that's great. Because yeah, I feel like there are so many bookkeepers out there, but so many of them are just do your reconciliation, give your report, and are done. They don't care to like know you as a person or like really I mean, I guess they care about your business, but like not obviously to the level that you and I would care about our client's business, right? And so I think like just being able to like provide that value and see them as like a real person, I think goes such a long way. And it like really sets you apart because I feel like there's so many people who aren't doing that. So that's
And it
awesome.
might be because they're fairly new and don't know it, they've
Yeah.
also never lived with somebody who was trying to have their own business and be profitable and seen, the struggle and seeing how real that is. And I think that gives me a different perspective because I saw my husband and his brother struggle. And it was not that they weren't doing a good job, they just weren't charging enough and they had no idea that they weren't charging enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I think undervaluing services is very common. And yeah, if you're not looking at your numbers, like you don't know that. And I think also you mentioned like health insurance, which that is a like when someone is starting their own business, that's a real scary thing like that. When you start your business and leave kind of the corporate life and you lose that safety blanket of like, okay, now I don't have benefits. And so I feel like it's awesome that you're able to help clients with that because I feel like that like scared me when I started my own business. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, like what do I do now for health insurance and stuff like that?" So, I think that's a great need that you provide your
That
clients.
was very scary. I mean, even for my husband when he transitioned from working full-time for somebody and went into business for himself full-time, and there was months that all we could afford was the health insurance because that was all that came in, and, I mean, this is really dating. I mean, this was 20 plus years ago, and at that time for a family plan, which was better than what they are now, it was, like, almost $2,000 a month for our family, but it was excellent. It's not like the 80/20 you have now. It was with United Healthcare, and I don't think there was a deductible. Matter of fact, we joke and say that our oldest daughter is a $10 baby, and someone's like, "What do you mean by that?" I was like, "Literally, I go to the doctor, they're like, 'You're pregnant.' You pay your $10 copay that time," and I never pay another copay my entire pregnancy, but there's nothing out there, no matter where you look, that's that good nowadays. They've changed it, they've raised the bar, they'll raise your max out of pocket. I mean, there's always some little catch in there, and I used to train insurance agents for United Healthcare, so I know about those little catches in there that people won't necessarily read that fine line. They're like, "Oh, that's a really good insurance." But is it?
Yeah.
What's it missing?
Right. No, that's awesome. Do you highlight that kind of like in your I don't know what sort of like marketing you do, but like in your messaging and your marketing when you're trying to attract new clients, like do you kind of like mention that health insurance things? I feel like that could really
That's all I'm marketing right now, and it's so funny, my virtual assistant, she'll be like, "Hey, I reached out to that person and was talking about, the health savings and asked them if they were interested," and, they're like, "And we need a bookkeeper." So, yep, I set up a call for a bookkeeper. I was like, "Okay, cool." And that's how I've got my business lately because they see me as someone who's not just wanting to charge them for my services, but someone who's actually adding value and helping them save money. To me, if you can help somebody save, let's say $1,000 a month and you want to, how do you say it, upsell them to a product that you know that they really need because like they really need these CFO services, but currently they can't afford it. But if you can save them somewhere else on a line item, they are so welcoming to any advice you have because then they know you care. Like, well, you just saved me that much money. What other advice do you have? I'm willing to pay extra for that advice.
yeah, no, that's yep, great point. So you mentioned your virtual assistant. So do you have a team or is it just you and a virtual assistant or
It's me, 2 virtual assistants. My son is actually he is a senior in high school, but he's working, taking college classes, working on his bachelor's in business, so he also helps me out too, which is kinda nice. He eventually wants to go to trade school, but I told him he had to learn the business side of it before I would agree to it. I mean, although as soon as he's 18, he can do what he wants, but, he's pretty receptive to that idea because 'cause I've seen so many small businesses that I wouldn't say that they're failing, but to me, if I look at your profit and loss and then I look at your balance sheet and I see that you're paying yourself, less than your lead technician, you have a real issue.
hmm.
You're not
It's a
valuing yourself. And I see it all the time. Like, I'll see the guy like barely paying himself $32,000 a year and his lead technician's making $75,000 a year. I'm like, you don't own your business. It owns you. And I don't want my son to be set up for failure like that. And that's kind of the thing is I point out to the clients. And I know some people have a love-hate relationship with the whole profit first concept. And they're like, well, then you're not really betting on yourself. But you really kinda need to know. You need to set that salary, and you need to be able to set it aside. Maybe you'll have to dip into it to pay something, but, being able to set that aside and say, "This is what I'm worth. This is what I'm gonna pay myself."
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So what would you say is like one of your biggest wins that you've had recently that's really helped you move your business forward? I know you're really trying to like lean into that health insurance space, but do you have a recent win that you feel like has really kind of propelled you forward?
Honestly, that's the one that has propelled me forward because it opens their eyes and they're more receptive, and I hate to say it, but I wasn't getting clients with traditional marketing, and I was getting some of them on Upwork, but and nothing against the people on Upwork, but they expect to pay a certain fee and they don't want to go above it. I know that what I have to offer is, just on the basic bookkeeping, some of the analyzation, I know that that's worth in this economy $75 an hour, but I'm lucky to get 40 on Upwork. And I was like, I've got to do something different. Not that they're bad clients. I like them and I'm not going to drop them unless they drop me because they really need the help. But it's like, I want to be able to show my value, market myself, and if I can go in and save them something or solve a pain point for them for free, like those consultations for the health insurance, I don't charge anything for that. And anyone can do it. And it's not just small businesses that can benefit from it. I'm seeing individuals come at me lately and they're like, well, with this big, beautiful bill, they're saying I'm going to lose part of my subsidy. I had one young lady who's paying less than $200 a month currently for her health insurance, through the marketplace, but she has a subsidy, and we looked at it, it was like 400 some dollars. If that goes away, she can't afford it. She's like, Now I feel like the elderly. Do I I pay for my medicine or do I pay for my food?" And that's a scary situation for anyone to be in. So, not only am I, in my marketing and my targeting businesses, I'm also letting individuals and families know, "Hey, call me." And someone's like, "Well, you're doing it for the money." I was like, "Oh, if you knew my commission on that, you would laugh at me and go, 'Why are you bothering?'" Because
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm like, for instance, I sold my aunt a $100 policy a month. I make less than $2 a month off of her. So, no, I'm not into it for the money. I'm into it to save my clients and save individuals. I'm not getting rich off of it. Those conversations cost me a lot more time than $2 a month.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, so like now let's flip it. What would you say is a mistake that you've made that's ended up teaching you something valuable that, incorporate today?
Honestly, undervaluing my services and I've discovered the least amount someone pays you, your least amount client is typically your most demanding.
Yes.
And I have one in mind, and I love him. I love him. I adore him. But and he's kind of my bread and butter though because he is a good chunk of my hours and he's steady, but it's low end and he's very demanding. Like if something, pops up, he has no idea that he doesn't have any concept that boundaries and it's the weekend. He's like, "My house is on fire, come put it out." And I
Yeah.
do. And because, I'll evaluate and be like, yeah, that really is something needs to be done. Like, for instance, he had some stuff and I didn't know it. I hadn't dug into it because that wasn't what he hired me for. But some stuff in 24 wasn't done. It was still listed as ask my accountant. Well, when he handed it to his CPA recently to have his taxes done, and it's due the 15th this month, his CPA is like, no, take that back to your bookkeeper. And he has an in-house bookkeeper and he has me. And well, she was, out for the Jewish holidays and stuff. So he's like, hey, I'm like, okay, your house is on fire. I'll put it out. But it's just kind of funny because the ones that pay the least are the most demanding. So just knowing your value is
Yep.
a big pain point for me.
Yeah,
'Cause I
for
wanna
sure.
help everybody out, but then it's like those ones that are really low, it's like, they're gonna be very time consuming.
Yeah, I feel like it always happens that way. The minute I'm like, accept a lower rate or, give a bigger discount than I normally would, I'm like, oh, I immediately regret it because yeah, it's either way more time than what it would have been if I would have just charged the right thing or yes, they want you 24/7 and, it's just like, oh, why did I do that?
It's like, why don't I have boundaries with you?
Yeah, so, yes, valuing yourself, I feel like it's super important, and a lot of people struggle with that, especially if they're not looking at their numbers and figuring out, like, how much, does it cost them to do whatever service they're providing, and how does that compare to, like, what they're charging? I feel like is a very, very big problem for a lot of people. So
It's not just bookkeeping businesses, it's everybody's business undervaluing it, and it's kind of funny because you can use tools now, and I've showed clients how to do it, honestly, with ChatGPT, but like, "What's the going rate of electricians in my area?" And you'll see it, and it pulls it up, and then you're like, "Huh," and I'm charging, like, way less than that. I still wanna be competitive, I just don't wanna, like, turn my people away, but I can bump that up and still be competitive, just teaching clients and finding tools and finding resources for them. You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's
Speaking
just
of tools, so you mentioned ChatGPT. Do you use a lot of AI in your business? Like people are,
yeah, I have been lately, and it's crazy because, you can actually like, I've taken recently, just out of curiosity, took my profit and loss for one of the clients, paired month to month, ran it through ChatGPT, and I was like, "Finding anomalies, anything you think I really should dig down into?" And it was stuff I didn't even think about, that it hadn't really, like, just looking at it, hadn't jumped out at me. I'm like, "Huh, yeah, that is something I need to ask the client about." So, I mean, there's tools out there that can assist you.
yeah.
Do I trust the categorization tool currently with QuickBooks where it wants to suggest things? No, because it's off the wall, and you're just like, "Wait a minute, no."
Yeah.
One of the things, I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I used to work directly for Intuit on their QuickBooks cleanup team. I worked in what they called the back office, so I wasn't, like, forward facing to the clients, but I was doing all the grunt work behind the scenes, categorizing things, and the first thing they told us was, "Turn off that auto accept rule." And I was like, "Huh. I feel like you guys created that so people will have a mess, so they're forced to hire you or hire a bookkeeper to clean up their books." Okay, great marketing concept, but terrible idea. So as
Yeah.
soon as I get a client's book, that's the first thing I do. I'm like, "Auto rules off."
Oh my gosh, that's crazy that they would tell you that, and, like, that's something that they
That they
offer.
yeah, put in their software, yep.
Oh my gosh,
Because
that's
it's
wild.
auto and forget, because then you're not looking, you're not paying attention.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, I feel like you can say that with, like, AI. Like, AI is great at some things, but, like, really not great at other things, and you still have to kinda, like, massage and tweak, like, what you get, but, I mean, sometimes it can be a game changer for
Oh,
you.
because it can reduce the amount of time, like, analyzing things that would take 3 hours, you can tell it, and the thing is it will learn from you eventually,
Yeah,
if you
for
pay for
sure.
the subscription. But that's like anything, you
Right.
know, and recently, some of the clients, like, the pain point is the cost. Like, I had one client who is a franchise owner. And
Mhm.
based on what they came back at me, she's currently on a QuickBooks plan that's like $125 a month, and she has to go the highest level just because I needed to expand her chart of accounts, and it's like 200 some dollars, and she's like, "What why?" And I was like, "There is an alternative." I was like, and I'm learning it, and I recently got certified in it. I was like, "It's 0." I was like, "I'm gonna tell you I'm not 100% comfortable with it because 'cause I've been using QuickBooks since, like, desktop version since 1997, so and I've been using 0 for 6 months, so there's things I'm learning, but I see a lot more, you know, bookkeepers and CPA firms in the States using it. It's been
That's
around for a
very
while. It's not nothing anything new. It's not like with Benchmark where it's gonna go belly up and you're gonna lose all your books.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, especially since you have been like, you actually worked with, QuickBooks and stuff, and I had a guest prior that, was, like, hardcore against QuickBooks and was all for 0, and so it's interesting that you like 0, even though you came from the QuickBooks world. So what are some of the, like, main differences or, like, what are some of the benefits, I guess? I mean, kind of already mentioned price, but, like, what
It
would
is
be different?
price. They have some better reporting features too. You can compare apples to apples, and I hate to say it because I've actually recently did a training series, and it's still out there on YouTube if you go looking for it on QuickBooks payroll because I was also part of their elite payroll team. So since I left QuickBooks, I actually did a series on how to set up the payroll, how to choose the appropriate payroll package. But here in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that I really like zero. And because I'm learning it and I like it, and it's just the thing is 0 to the interface for the clients, it uses terminology that they understand. It's not the accounting jargon that you're gonna see when you get into QuickBooks, and so the ones that are on it have always been on it, and actually, as a client who's like, "I'm on 0 and I'm never going to QuickBooks, so you're gonna have to learn it if you want me as a client." I was like, "Let's accept it. Let's go."
meet a lot of bookkeepers that way. Some are like they only take QuickBooks clients, or some like only take zero clients. Like there's rare to find one that will work in both. So I find that so interesting. So you work with either one, like you don't have a
Yeah,
preference
I
on.
will work with either one, and then, if they're getting started, I look at them, and I look at the features, and a lot of them, the new ones, I'm like, "Hey, let's just start you out in 0. You've never seen the QuickBooks product." I mean, I have got one client who's hardcore. I will never get him off of QuickBooks, and I'm okay with that because guess what? He can afford it. Some of them can't afford it as they keep increasing their price. That's not an issue for him. It's not a pain point. It's
Gotcha.
just I mean, it's peanuts to him. So I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll keep you there because 'cause you're comfortable with it, you know how to use it." But
Gotcha.
the
Yeah, but
newbies, I'm like, "Let's just get you started right and put you on
yeah,
0 because,
I know.
it's at a
Kind of
price
wishing.
level you can afford."
Yeah, I'm kind of wishing like because I used to do like I'm a CPA and I used to do my own books like just in spreadsheets and I when I finally was like, okay, no, I want to get this off my plate. Like I want to have a real bookkeeper and someone do my books. I just like went with QuickBooks because that was the only thing I heard of, and the bookkeeper I was recommended, that was the only thing they would work with, and I was like, okay, fine. And then as I've started like, you know, working my business, having more clients, I'm like, people keep talking about zero. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, gosh dang it, I wish I would
Well,
like
they're really starting to
known about.
market in the States, honestly, and they're doing road shows because they're not I mean, they have locations in the States, but that's not where they're from. I think they're originally from New Zealand. So that throws some people off, but, like, if you talk to people like, I have a client, he's in New York, he's got dual citizenship. He's from, oh my gosh, Ireland, and so his business partner's in Ireland, so that's the one who got me started on zero. He's like, "It's 0 or nothing." 'Cause that's what we're on. He's like, he's like overseas in the European countries, that's what they're on. He's like, that's what they know. They don't want anything to do with QuickBooks. I was like, "Okay, well, challenge accepted. I'm gonna learn it." And then I've been putting clients on it since.
That's so cool. So do you well, I guess kind of twofold. I know you understand the value of like knowing your numbers and data and all that. So I'm assuming that you track metrics for your own business, but like do you also help like clients track metrics or
I'm terrible about metrics for my own business. Are you kidding me? It's like the electrician who has the lights that won't turn on. But, no, I yeah, I do track the metrics for the clients, and I've looked into, like, programs called data rails and kinda looking into it, into the dashboards because a client being able to see it and see pictures, QuickBooks is kinda coming out with some things, and maybe you could tweak it if you really chose to, but I just don't feel like it gives the full picture. But if there was something a client could learn how to use and go out to and be like, "Yep, here's my full picture," especially with projections. I mean, most bookkeepers and CPAs, we deal with things that already happened in the past. But if you can project what's going to happen in the future, like I have one guy and he drives me up the wall with his Google Sheets. He's like, well, what if I hire one more contractor? What's that do to me? Or what if I do this? What's that do to me? And I'm sitting here updating the Google Sheets manually with this. I'm like, with all these what if scenarios. I'm like, okay, that's what happens. And you owe me this amount of money for all your what ifs.
Yes, no, I totally get that because I feel like a lot of business owners, they don't understand. And I think this is part of the problem, like why they don't see the value in like knowing their numbers or like have any interest is because like either they don't understand it or able to like interpret it. And so, like dashboards and like having the charts and the graphs, I feel like is easier way for them to kind of see the trends and like what's happening, and a lot easier than reading some report that just has like words and numbers
Numbers,
listed and
yeah.
yeah. So giving them that visualization, I feel like really helps them. So like what kind of things do you help them track? Like, do you have certain ones or is it just kind of like whatever they
Mostly it's
need?
whatever they have currently. My big thing that I'm trying to push on clients is let's think ahead. Let's have a budget. Let that way we can look and say, I want my labor to be a certain percentage of, my cost of goods sold and stuff. Let's keep track of that. What's your ideal number? What's your profit margin? What's that look like? And in the best case scenario. Now let's work on getting the numbers to drive you there. What can we reduce? How can we make you more effective? And sometimes it's literally, it's called, let's find a better deal. Because I know when my husband worked construction, like, you could go to Lowe's and pick something up, but if you took the time and you ordered it through a company called 84 Lumber, there are some things you're gonna get cheaper rates on, and you just keep going with them, just kinda price checking. I tell people, when a regular person builds a house, they're gonna price check. These builders don't ne they don't have time necessarily to do it, but, just kinda occasionally spot checking and finding ways to, increase your profitability. Just, like I said, tailor it to the clients. When they're first getting started, they don't really care. I do like to meet with them quarterly to go over their profit and loss and their balance sheet and kind of, like, do little projections with them, like, "Well, what do you think's gonna happen next quarter?" "What have you got lined up?"
Mhm.
And then really kind of, like I said, the job costing. Some of them don't care, and it's like, "No, you really need to keep track of, specific projects. Are you making money on that project, or is that something that maybe you wanna do away with?" Which is a discussion I had with a nonprofit last night. I was like, I said, "We need to break it down to where is that camp making you money, on the
Yeah.
fees, or is that something that it's gonna break your heart, but you're gonna have to do away with because it's costing more than" you know?
Yeah, for sure. Do you use any sort of like tech or software to help you with like the tracking of that, or do you just do it like all manually, like spreadsheet or?
Unfortunately, it's manually right now. I know that I've looked into data rails, but I mean, they won't really give you a price until you like do a demo with a client and it's client specific. And it's like, okay, well, that's
Yeah.
nice. I don't really know what I'm going to be paying. It's kind of like when QuickBooks rolled out their QuickBooks Enterprise Online, they won't give you a price, not until you like get into it
Strategic.
with them. It's like, when they are not willing to give you at least some kind of estimate up front, it's going to be out of your price range usually.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, honestly get kinda, like, frustrated when it's I just wanna know, like, is this even, like, a ballpark of what I before I have to, like, spend time going through a demo or whatever, it's like, is this something I can even afford, right? It's like,
Is
just
this something
give
my
me, like,
client can even
starting at.
afford, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get really frustrated when I see that. Um, okay, interesting. I was just curious, yeah, how you did that, but, what would you give some like, what advice sorry, like, what advice would you give someone who's just starting out, or well, I guess starting to like scale their business or starting to take it seriously? Like what kind of advice would you give them?
Really get to know your numbers and like I said, I mean, you don't have to have like dreams that are really unrealistic, but if you can't, I mean, when you first get started, you're probably not going to be able to pay yourself what you had at your day job. But getting yourself to that point that you can pay yourself what you're in your day job, going out, doing the market research, finding out what other, especially tradesmen, what other people in the area are charging. You don't want to price gouge people, but you also want to make money,
Mhm.
and I see a lot of people that fail at that and, have a good business plan, good business model. And it's crazy because there are tools out there they can assist you with, and I've been tinkering with it. There's one called Enzo, and I literally chose it. It's spelled different than my daughter's dog's name, but I chose it because I was like, "Huh, it's named after her dog."
Yeah.
It's ENSO, and he's ENZO, but I chose it for that, and I was, like, kinda looking at it, and it helps me with my marketing with, like, LinkedIn and stuff, but it also and I haven't dug into it, but it has, like, other tools to help small business owners, make projections and stuff in a business plan. So just
Oh,
kinda,
cool.
yeah, you can go out there and wing it and be like, "Yes, I'm a heating and
Mhm.
air guy. I've been doing it for years. I'm gonna start my own business." But, starting your own business is a headache. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. It's nice
Yes, I
in
feel like
concept, but most of these guys, they're owned by their business. Let's be
well,
honest.
yes, and I feel like there's a lot of things when you have your own business that, like, when you're thinking about starting your own, like, people don't tell you or, like, you don't know. Like, I feel like I know so much now that had I known what it takes to have your own business and all the things that that entails, I don't know that I could have done it 5 years ago. I'm like, I think I would have
Well,
been
maybe in
just
some ways
scared.
it's better to have some blinders on
Yeah,
in some
that's true. Yeah.
concepts. But like I said with my son, him saying he wants to go to trade school and become an electrician, which is what his dad was, but he now works for the post office. I'm like, but you got to learn how to run the business before because I know that's the goal he's going to want eventually. He's going to want to be in business for himself, but I want to set him up. to be successful, not for failure.
No, that's an amazing gift, I feel like, that you can give your kids. I feel like, yeah, so many people don't understand the business side. They're like, "No, I just wanna do, like, what I know how to do." And it's like, but if you want to be successful and have a business that lasts, like, you really need to understand the business side of things. Otherwise, like, you don't know what you don't know, and someone could totally take advantage of you, if you bring someone else in to do the business stuff, but, like,
Oh, yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
what
That was one of the things he's 17 years old, so he's still naive. He's like, "Won't you always do my books for me?" I was like, "Eventually I'll die, or you'll make so much money, you don't want me to know how much money you're making." And he goes, "I like that idea." I was like, "So if you have a concept of what's behind it," I said, "'Cause, some people, you get to the point where you don't wanna mix business and family." Like, my brother-in-law recently bought a garage, and, all of it and he funny part was is he started out as the bookkeeper, and eventually they offered to sell him the business, and he bought it because he knew it was profitable because 'cause he'd seen the books.
Right.
Um, and it's kind of funny, but he tells his family, he goes, "No, I'm not giving you a discount." I live far enough away, and then but it's kind of ironic because when he was the bookkeeper and he also can work as a mechanic, he, fixed my car for free, and it's just so funny because now I see him now that he owns it. I was like, "Now you got a better concept there, don't you, Adam? Gotta make
Oh, that
money.
would change things.
I might give you a little bit of a discount, but you're not gonna take advantage of me."
So I feel like we kind of already talked about it, but, like, if you could go back and after all that you've just said, I feel like it was really valuable, but if you could go back and give your past self one piece of clarity, what would it be? And that's kind of hard to
Just
answer.
kinda make sure you're really, ready for everything that goes into it. I mean, especially when you're first getting started, like, a lot of people are gonna approach you and try to sell you marketing plans or this and that, and you're just kinda really doing your research because I've spent and I'm not exaggerating, tens of thousands of dollars on marketing plans that got me nowhere because I didn't even know what was marketing at the time. I had no concept, so having that business plan, knowing what you wanna market, uh, you know, before you kinda, like, jump in, like, "Oh, let's try this, let's try that," it's kind of funny, that's how I landed in tax planning. I have a tax planning software, and I use it occasionally, but not very often, but I paid for it up front. But it's a nice thing to have for the clients, and to use it, but it's just those things that what I mean? It's not I don't really feel like anyone was trying to take advantage of me, but I didn't even know how to market myself, and I think you've gotta know how to market yourself or have a concept of what services are you going to offer and what price point before you can go paying someone to run your marketing campaign for you.
Yes, and I feel like there's so many different strategies out there, and you can easily get, like, distracted and, like, trying one and, like, quickly diverting to another, and it's, like, really, like, no, like, you need to find which one's gonna work best for you because what works for you might not work for someone else, but, like, so, like, really doing
And
that
then
research.
giving it time, because sometimes
Yeah.
it takes time before those things start to trickle in.
Yes, for sure. Um, so, yeah, I totally agree. But before we wrap up, like, where can people connect with you, learn more about, all that you're doing, especially in the health insurance space? Where can they find you?
Well, I mean, I need to revamp my website too, but, like, if they go to, bookkeeper365.org is my website, but I'm about to revamp it to where I just kinda, like, have an intro video and, like a landing page, intro video, tell you about me, and literally a link because have a CPA friend that does it, literally, like, book an appointment here. It just leaves out all the questions, and you get that person in front of you, and they're not, exploring. Because in the past 6 months, there's, like, a little link on there right now that says, "Contact me." I've gotten 3 leads out of that, so I'm like, "Something needs to be done with this website." It's not getting me anywhere.
Are you on social media anywhere, or do you just want everyone to
Yeah,
see your web?
I am on, I'm on LinkedIn. I have a business profile and obviously personal profile. And then same thing with Facebook. You can find me on Facebook, Bookkeeper365. And there is an Instagram floating around out there that my daughter helped me set up that I really know nothing about, which is how I use that Enzo platform. I'm like, post to Instagram for me, something I'm never gonna see because I don't,
Oh, man.
it's one of those new
Maybe
things.
practice.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, go ahead, post out there. I don't care.
That's awesome. Well, that was such a great conversation with Amanda. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to share your story and insights with us. If you got value from today's episode, follow Next Sell Over wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you know a bookkeeper, CFO, or founder who's scaling a lean team and would enjoy this conversation, send it their way. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me, Jenna.
Thank you.